and he says, hey, I think I found the Monaco Grand Prix pace car. I would have to say that one of the most iconic cars that we've ever had, and I can't even say that we've actually discovered this because we got a cold call to actually to buy this car. But one of the most iconic cars we've ever had is the Monaco Grand Prix Countach pace car. In 1980, 1981, Lamborghini was in a very bad position. At the time, they were basically in a type of receivership. The company had no real owner. There were a few different investors, and an incredible brothers, Jean-Claude and Patrick Mimran, came in to save Lamborghini. They purchased the company. It's sort of an unknown. It was never a published sum, but it was believed around $2 to $3 million. And at that time, there's some crazy photos in Italy and crazy stories where if you ordered your Lamborghini Countach and you wanted delivery of it, you'd actually have to go there with cash to pay the vendor for the wheels. Or, if you wanted a radio, you had to go pay the radio vendor in cash to get your radio because the company was in such bad financial despair. They were actually building Fiats in the back of Lamborghini just to generate revenue. So they really came in, they saved the company, and the first thing they did was made revisions to the Lamborghini Countach at the time, which was the LP400S low body. Now, what's cool about this period in time is the first two LP400Ss that were Series 3, so these are the 1981 cars that were produced. The first two went to Jean-Claude and Patrick Mimran. And what's really cool about this story is that almost immediately upon their build, they ended up at the Monaco Grand Prix, the 1981 Monaco Grand Prix. And they famously drove around and were the pace cars for the Monaco Grand Prix. And these photos now, I think, have sort of gone viral. They go down as the best pace cars in history. Hot Wheels made a model off them. There's other models that other companies have made. And it's so funny because when you think of Lamborghini and you think of this period, you think of this, glamorous Monaco Grand Prix, which is probably the most glamorous Formula One race in the world. You think of this incredible time in F1 history. And then in this period, the Monaco Grand Prix cars were actually driven by former Formula One drivers. So this sort of like this incredible story of, Valentino driving this red Countach and this white Countach down to the Monaco Grand Prix. Valentino tells me this great story that he gives the keys to Sterling Moss, and Sterling Moss is driving this Countach as a pace car, and then Sterling Moss loses his wallet in the car, and he can't find it, and Valentino's trying to help him look for the wallet under the seat. And that's a whole great story from Valentino Balboni, who's probably one of the most famous Lamborghini test drivers in history. Really, these cars, in my idea, these pace cars have, they're probably the most famous Lamborghinis of our time. So I had always been looking for one of the pace cars. The red car was Patrick's car. The white car was Jean-Claude's car. And I'd always sort of looked at different details, and one of the details you could tell with Jean-Claude's car specifically was he actually had unique door panels, and he had unique door pockets. So the door panel on a typical LP400S was flat. His had these like funky little design. He had these like this pocket on the driver's side to like hold his glasses or driving gloves or something like that. And it was a white over blue car. So I always thought it'd be cool to find either car, and I had searched and searched for years, and I just couldn't find them. And then one day, I get a call out of Belgium, and it's a gentleman I've known for a few years in the car world. We haven't really done any business, and he says, hey, I think I found the Monaco Grand Prix pace car. And I'm like, you're serious? And he goes, yeah. So he starts sending me photos, and I immediately freak out because it's not just the Monaco Grand Prix pace car, but it is a car that has basically been preserved and parked and basically put away since probably the mid or late 80s. At some point after Jean-Claude owned the car, it was later sold to I believe it was a nightclub owner that used the car famously in France, and he used the car famously all over the French Riviera, and later, basically at some point, just parked it in Belgium. And what's cool about the car is it wasn't only used in the 1981 Monaco Grand Prix, but it was used again in the 1982 Monaco Grand Prix. Now, there's some confusion around the 1982 because there was actually two cars there that were white with blue, but you can tell by the interior and you can tell by a few features of this car that this was the 1982 car in a certain fashion, and it was also the 1981 car. So it was pace car of two Monaco Grand Prix, Jean-Claude's personal car, unique features, and then this car was basically parked with 4,000 original miles. So I was incredibly excited. At the time, they wanted a lot of money. And it was probably at the time a world record for an LP400S Series 3 car ever sold. But I knew that if we could bring this car back, go through it mechanically, and really just try to preserve the paint and try to preserve the interior, this would be one of the best Lamborghini Countaches in the world. It's white. It's got stunning blue interior, unique features, incredible provenance, and low miles. So we end up making a deal. I pay this world record price for the car, and we bring the car into the US. Literally, as it was arriving, I was on the phone with a very good friend who hadn't actually purchased any cars from me yet. And we were just talking about life and cars and all these different things. Very passionate guy, incredible Lamborghini collection, but he didn't have a Countach or Diablo or anything like that. He had a Miura and a 350 GT. And I said, man, I have the most incredible Countach. You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you the price, but I really believe that I can take this car, I can fix it the way it needs to be fixed. I can put graphics back, I can find original police lights, and I can make this car basically the way it was at the 1981 Monaco Grand Prix. And we can show this car and we can go win awards. He started laughing and, I told him the price and he said, you know what? I'll do it. But he goes, if I want to sell it, you've got to buy it back. And I said, done. I'll take it back. If you ever want to sell it, it's coming to me. The only thing I ask is let me have creative control. Let me manage it. I want it to be, it's an important part of Curated's brand and our culture and everything we do around the Countach. So he ends up buying the car. We made a small profit. And, I was just happy to have the car with us. And we start going through everything. We do a massive paint correction. We do a little touch up. We leave a lot of stone chips. We leave a lot of the cracking to show it as original paint. We even leave the interior completely original. And the interior cleaned up incredibly well. That's probably the highlight of the car. We've actually had Lamborghini experts come in just to look at the interior to see how an original interior, a blue interior, would have looked in that period. And then we pulled the engine. We went through all the gaskets and seals, suspension bushings, exhaust. We basically changed everything. Now, remarkably, somehow, we were looking on eBay one day and we found an original, not just period correct, but the actual light. Not the one on the car, but the actual brand, the actual model, the actual everything. Police lights that were used for the Monaco Grand Prix, which I've looked for another. I can never find one again. So luck had it. We found that. And then we spent probably, I would say, 3 or 4 months trying to find the correct decals that they would have used in 81, 82. Now, 81, 82 decals are much different than today's vinyl and today's products. So we had to play with a lot of different sheens, a lot of different materials, because I really just wanted that same effect. We studied how they were laid on the car, and we did all this work, and we spent so much time perfecting this car, and came around, we were finally finished, and we actually registered it to one of the first supercar classes at Amelia Island concourse. And this was a really important moment for supercars and Lamborghinis in general, because, Amelia Island concourse is probably the second best concourse d'elegance, if not the world, if, definitely the country. And to have the supercars honored there was a big, moment. So it was a perfect time to unveil the car for the first time to the public. We brought it out, and I have to say it was pretty scary because the class of supercars included McLaren F1, CLK GTR, Porsche 959S, 280 GTO, F40, all these insane cars, BMW M1, and we are with our Countach. And it was pretty nerve-wracking because the owner was there, and I told him, if we go, take this car anywhere, we're gonna win. So I had all the historical photos, I had all the historical documents, I had the whole history. And it was my first time, I believe it was my first time ever showing a car publicly at a concourse. So I'm new to this, but I just spewed my passion of exactly what I felt for this car. And I think the judges saw that, and they really loved the history. They loved the car. They loved the preservation work we completed on the car. And the day went by, and we're just having fun at this point. And I really didn't know or think that we would actually win, in a class of that, nature. And remarkably, we won. And I think we got runner-up or second place or whatever it is, but still an incredible feat for a young company to be showing for the first time, or one of the first times, at a major concourse, and to win with that car, which historically Lamborghinis have not always won major concourse events. And immediately after that, the market changed a little bit, and I started getting insane offers for the car. And I got offered $1 million, and I got offered $1.2 million. And I got offered even more for the car. And, I think it's funny because the owner originally he wasn't in love with it, and he said, maybe I sell it, but I think it's a cool project. And today, I think it's one of the best pieces of his collection. It's an important part of his collection. I don't think he'll ever sell at this point. He's fallen in love with it, but if he did ever sell, I'd have to figure out a way to try to keep it or keep it in the family because it's become a part of curated culture.
No one should do a private party car deal without Caramel. During a car transaction, you've got a car, a title, and some money that's going to be changing hands, and I always tell everybody that neither side gets to have all three. But Caramel solves all of that because they verify the identities of both parties, they safely and securely connect to each side's bank account to manage the transfer of money, and they process your title and do all the DMV paperwork no matter what state the buyer or the seller are in. And for a limited time, Caramel is free to both buyers and sellers. They do allow you to add transportation and warranty products and things like that as you close your deal. So check them out now at drivecaramel.com or at the link in the description below.